We are continuing on with Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, taking a look at the divine as mother in this incarnation, and which is always so refreshing to me anyway. Uh, I love the divine feminine and the qualities that it emphasizes as a wonderful answer to the masculine divinity with its qualities. But, Vivekananda was very interested in giving the idea of God as mother to the West, saying that we had suffered under God the Father for long enough. So we're on page 189 in the chapter called In and Around Calcutta. And Mother has completed that wonderful act of austerity on our behalf, actually, the Panchatapa ceremony, where she sat for, how was it, 7 days she did that. Yeah, for 7 days she sat on the roof in the hot sun of Calcutta with 4 fires burning in each of the directions around her, doing meditation for our benefit. So quite a wonderful and apparently fairly significant event for her, not just in the intensity of that austerity, but that young girl that she said would visit her regularly, that vision that she would have stopped at that point. So it was apparently a culminating experience of something to prepare her for her role as kind of leading the divine work that Ramakrishna had laid out and put her in charge of when he left the body. And so she's gone on pilgrimage and spent a lot of time with the devotees at the time. And her last words here before. Oh, yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Surely. All right. Everyone is muted. Please feel free to unmute yourself anytime to say anything at all, even if it's just a good joke. So she said to us in the last sentence last week, "My child, I went through all of this austerity, this Panchatapa, for the sake of all of you. Can you practice austerities? This is why I had to do it." You see, that's the nature of a mother, knowing our limitations, knowing our shortcomings. She doesn't accuse us of them. She covers for them. She does her best to lift us up. And it's a great example for how we can be for each other. That we don't become interested in pointing out each other's faults, but we become interested in being the solution to each other's faults, to be a help in each other's weaknesses, and to just like on the battle line, if you're fighting with your friend, you'll cover his back, you'll cover his vulnerabilities. And so for us as well, that's part of love. I've been reading this book by Thich Nhat Hanh. I keep thinking I'm going to do a book report on it. Take me back to my school days. But You Are Here. He has such a wonderful way of describing love. He says, what is love? He says, to love yourself is to say to yourself, I see that you are here and I am here for you. So it's being able to say with your inner voice to yourself, I'm here for you. So you're always positive and always willing to help yourself, always willing to strengthen yourself, always willing to believe in yourself, to trust in yourself, to forgive yourself. And as soon as we learn to love ourselves in that way, then the way that we love another is to say, I see that you are here and I am here for you. To live with that kind of attitude. And I think that really sums up this book. It was such a beautiful way of just in a simple way, such a simplicity of describing what real love is. I'm here for you, in whatever way you need me, in whatever way I can be of service to you, I'm here for you. And our practice is really all about being able to say that with ever more meaning, with ever more commitment, to its truth, ever more commitment to its manifestation of what we are, because that is our inner name, actually. Our inner name is, I am here for you. That's what we are made of, that love. Holy Mother always felt the Master's presence wherever she lived. You know, this is a divine gift actually to all of us, that hidden within each one of us is the bliss of the beloved, of the divine. And so anytime that we choose to sit down, be quiet, practice some silence, and come into the moment, we also can experience that divine presence in the form of a bliss that radiates constantly from within, but it's only heard in the silence of the mind. So everywhere you are, you always have the presence of the divine with you. When she was in Nilambar's house in Belur, she had a vision. It was a moonlit night. She was seated on the steps leading to the Ganges, looking at the full moon reflected in the waves of the sacred river. Suddenly, she saw Ramakrishna come from behind and proceed swiftly to the river. As soon as he touched the water, his body dissolved in it. Later, Holy Mother described this incident. I looked at the phenomena with my mouth wide open in utter amazement. All of a sudden, Naren, which was Vivekananda, also appeared. I didn't know from where, crying, "Victory unto Ramakrishna." He took some water in his hands and began to sprinkle it upon innumerable men and women gathered around. That would be us, you guys. Here we are in Mother's vision. Victory unto Ramakrishna. He took some water into his hands and began to sprinkle it upon innumerable men and women gathered around. Immediately they attained liberation. This vision was imprinted on her mind so deeply that she could not bathe in the Ganges for some days. She said, "This Ganges is the body of the Master. How can I touch it with my feet?" This experience finally convinced her that Ramakrishna's physical death did not mean that he had ceased to exist. He had been incarnated to fulfill a cosmic purpose, and she must also contribute her share to accomplish it. You know, that is an amazing statement, not by the Mother, but by the vision there, that Ramakrishna dissolved into the river, the Ganga, which is known for its ability to purify, for its ability to wash away all of our troubles, all of our shortcomings, all of our blindness. And so here we just have the universe putting in a very clear way for us that our refuge in the divine, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Ramakrishna or Krishna or Chaitanya, that our refuge in these incarnations is our dipping in the Ganga, our washing away of our weaknesses, of our wrong thinking, and that they are our purity. You know, for many years early on in the shrine, when I'd go into the shrine, it was always a real challenge for me, because I was the kind of person, you know, if I walked into a church, I was afraid it would fall on me. And so I would sit in that shrine with that same kind of trepidation, like, oh God, certainly you can't see everything, can you? You know, and feeling like that. And so my solution to that was, you know, I just imagined myself that God, through Thakur, Jesus, Buddha, had given me a cloak to wear, a chadar. And so I would put on my chadar, my meditation shawl in the shrine, and I would imagine it to be made of grace, and that it was enough for me, and so that Thakur would look and see the grace and not not see me. And so in this vision, we can see that this is the truth, you know, that we have our confidence through grace, through this immense love that is born of the universe, that is the very nature of the universe. Holy Mother soon became the central figure for Ramakrishna's disciples and devotees. They came to her for solace and succor, and she treated them with great affection. Once Durga Charan Nag, known as Nag Mahashai, came to visit Holy Mother at Nilambar's house. He considered Ramakrishna to be God, and he considered Holy Mother to be the Divine Mother. Holy Mother described Nag Mahashai's exuberant devotion and how the master's devotees respected her. She said, "Ah, what shall I say about Durga Charan? He looked upon me as the Divine Mother herself. He came to see me on Ekadashi. In those days, no men devotees were allowed in my presence. They used to bow down to me by touching their heads to the staircase. A maidservant used to announce the name of the visitor, saying, 'So and so is saluting you, Mother,' and I would send my blessings. On that day, the maid said, 'Mother, who is Nag Mahashai? He is bowing down to you and hitting his head so hard that it might bleed.' Oh my goodness. Yogananda Maharaj was trying to persuade him to stop, but he does not say a word. He seems to be unconscious. Is he mad, Mother?" I love that. Mother said, "Please ask Yogan to send him here." Yogan brought him to me. I saw that his forehead was indeed swollen. Tears were trickling from his eyes, and his steps were unsteady. He could not see me because he was blinded by tears. I made him sit down. He was uttering only, "Mother, Mother," as if he were insane. Otherwise, he was calm, composed, and balanced. I wiped away his tears with the upper corner of my cloth. He came when I had just sat down for my meal, luchis, sweets, and fruits. I ate a little of the food and then tried to feed him with the prasad, but it was hard for him to swallow the food. He had no outer consciousness. He remained seated, touching my feet with his hands, repeating, "Mother, Mother." My women companions said, "Mother, your meal is spoiled. Let Yogananda, yet Yogananda Maharaj take him downstairs." I said, "Wait, let him compose himself a little." I stroked his head and his body and repeated the master's name. And after some time, he regained external consciousness. Then I began to eat my meal and also to feed him. After his meal, he was taken downstairs. While leaving me, he said, "Not I, not I, but you, you." I told those who were near me, "Look how wise he is. He would do anything for me." My goodness, what a beautiful, beautiful in every way. Just that if there's any doubt in you, about devotion and about having access to the divine through devotion, this should lay aside any concern. Be crazy, be over the top, and look, Mother let him in, and she would only send her blessings through the maidservant for everybody who was just going to church. Yeah. But for the soul who's really throws their heart at the divine, bows down, would do anything. Mother invites him in, shares her lunch with him, gives him prasad, takes care of him, strokes him, and gives him, lets him get some of his composure again, and then go. You see that you give Mother the opportunity to be your mother. Give God the opportunity to be your mother. And this is what comes. This is what waits for us. Once Nag Mahashai visited Holy Mother at her residence on Sarkarbari Lane in Calcutta. The mother described his exuberant devotion. What wonderful devotion he had. Look at this dry sal leaf plate. Could anyone eat it? But out of overwhelming devotion, he swallowed even the leaf plate because prasad had touched it. Oh, his eyes were so full of devotion, slightly reddish and always moist with tears. His body was emaciated from severe austerity. When he came to see me, his body would tremble out of devotion. It was hard for him to climb up the stairs. His steps would falter. I have never seen such devotion in anyone. Holy Mother once gave him a cloth, but Nag Mahashai never used it. On special occasions, he would tie it around his head. Sometimes he would say, Mother is more gracious than Father. Indeed, indeed. Holy Mother visits Bihar. Holy Mother stayed at Nilambar's house in Belur from July to October 1893, and then went to Jairamati. Balaram's daughter, Bhuban Mohini, died in December of 1893, and her mother, Krishna Bhavani, was sick with grief. The doctors suggested that she go to a health resort outside Calcutta. Accordingly, a house was rented in Kailwar on the bank of the Shon River in Bihar, 8 miles east of Ara. Krishna Bhavani asked Holy Mother to accompany her, and she agreed. In late January 1894, Holy Mother, now 41, went to Balaram's house in Calcutta, and then in the early part of February left for Kailwar. The party consisted of Holy Mother, Krishna Bhavani, and her mother, Golab Ma, Yogan Ma, Swamis Yogananda, Sharadananda, Trigunatitananda, and some cooks and servants. Holy Mother later recalled her stay in Kailwar. Once I spent a couple of months at Kailwar in the district of Ara. It was a very healthy place. Golap, Babaram's mother, Balaram's wife, and others were with me. The country abounded in deer. A herd of them roamed about, forming a triangle, but no sooner had we seen them than they fled like the birds. I had never before seen anything run so swiftly. The master would say, musk develops in the navel of the deer. Being fascinated with its smell, the deer runs hither and thither. They do not know where the fragrance comes from. Likewise, God dwells in the human body, and human beings do not know it. Therefore, they search for bliss everywhere, not knowing that it is already in them. God alone is real. Everything else is false. Really, if we would just listen to that one paragraph, we would be finished. We would be finished. You are that which you seek. That within you, watching your mind, feeling your feelings, living your life, is that which you are looking for in your life. That aware, that isness, the I am, God herself, divine love perfected, divine compassion, divine grace, divine wisdom. That's why when we sit, we just sit. We sit and we go inside. To what? To be silent. For what? So that we can find this, which is ours. So that we can experience the presence of this promise, the reality of this promise, of this knowledge. After returning from Kailwar, Holy Mother left for Jairamati in April of 1894, and then returned to Calcutta in August of 1894, again staying with Balaram's family. Every afternoon, Yogan Ma, Golab Ma, Krishna Bhavani, Matangini, and the women devotees would gather around Holy Mother to hear stories of her childhood and her time with the Master. Those were glorious days. I bet those were glorious days. Can you imagine? It's kind of what we're doing now. Although, just sitting around together and listening to the stories of our beloved. In 1894, Holy Mother attended the Janmashtami festival, the celebration of Krishna's birth, at Balaram's house. After that, Mamtangini wanted to worship Mother Durga in her country home at Anpur. She invited Holy Mother to attend the festival, and she agreed. On Janmashtami Day, it was announced that Holy Mother would be going to Mamtangini's country home in Anpur to attend Durga Puja. Shortly before Durga Puja, the worship of the Divine Mother as Durga, in 1894, Mantangini left for Antipur with Holy Mother, with Yogin Ma, Golap Ma, and Swamiji's disciple, Swami Chetanananda. Mantangini's daughter, Krishna Bhavani, and son, Shantiram, also came. They went to Haripal by train and then by bullock cart to Antipur, but a palanquin was arranged for Holy Mother. In Antipur, Durga Puja was celebrated for 4 days with great eclat. Afterward, Holy Mother left for Karmarpakor with Yogin Ma, Golab Ma, and Sadananda. After staying a few days in Karmarpakor, they went to Jairambati. Holy Mother stayed there, and the others returned to Calcutta. It's wonderful, you seeing the Holy Mother's life. It's like she's always, all the things that she's doing, there's always a spiritual destiny in it, always a spiritual practice in it, or a spiritual purpose in it. This is what happens to us as seekers. Life, we begin to see that truth, that God alone is real, that everything else is illusory, changing constantly, always passing before our awareness. And yet, when we start to find that real, we start seeing and experiencing it everywhere. It becomes the only thing that we are interested in, to find that. Because once you sit in that shrine within, once you feel even the tiniest amount of that bliss of the beloved, it's like the musk of the deer. You smell it, you're like, oh, more of that, please. Holy Mother returns to Calcutta. In February of 1895, Holy Mother returned to Balaram's home after her visit to Jairambati. Every evening, Holy Mother would attend the Vesper service of Balaram's family deity in the shrine and then meditate on the roof. One evening, when Holy Mother was at Vespers, Gorima entered her room and hid under her cot. Uh-oh. That evening, there was a torrential rain, so Holy Mother came back to her room for meditation. After an hour, Holy Mother began to laugh and cry in an ecstatic mood, and finally she became motionless. After a couple of hours, Gorima touched her head to Holy Mother's feet. She opened her eyes and saw Gorima. Holy Mother asked, "Where have you been?" "I was hiding under your cot." Smiling, Holy Mother exclaimed, "What a girl." "Mother, I was hiding under your cot for such a long time and you didn't see me." Holy Mother was late for supper, so Krishna Bhavani entered the room to fetch her. Gorima said to Krishna Bhavani, "Baudi, sister-in-law, look, Mother says that she does not get ecstasy and samadhi, so I hid under her cot to see what she does during meditation." She then described everything to Krishna Bhavani. Embarrassed, Holy Mother remained seated with her eyes cast down. Beautiful. Holy Mother takes her mother on pilgrimage. Every devout Hindu aspires to see Gaya, Varanasi, Vrindavan, Prayag, and other holy places at least once in their lifetime. Holy Mother wanted to fulfill this desire for her mother, who had gone through many ordeals throughout her life. She planned the pilgrimage for February 1895, and Yogan Ma, Golab Ma, and Yogananda decided to go with her. Accordingly, Holy Mother brought her mother and 2 brothers, Prasanna and Kali, from Jairambati to Calcutta. The party first went to Varanasi to worship Vishwanath Shiva and Mother Annapurna. One day, Yogananda hired a boat and took the party to see where the Ganges flows in a half crescent and to give them a panoramic view of Varanasi. They stayed in Varanasi for 3 days and then went to Vrindavan, where they stayed until the middle of April 1895. That Varanasi is a magical place. I don't know how many of you have been there. I felt like, in Varanasi, I went in 1999, which was, well, I went again in 2012 also, but in 99, I'd never been to India. It was my first trip there. And I had already had my experience with Moksha Prana and was very interested in spiritual life at that point. And I remember walking around that city, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking around somebody else's subconscious mind. It was so other for me. These narrow, and by narrow I mean some of these little alleyways between these houses were no wider than your shoulders. You literally walk, and they would always be curvy, and just, then they would suddenly, just out of nowhere, they would suddenly widen, and you would find yourself in the middle of a bazaar, with all manner of colorful, shiny, gorgeous, glittery things for sale, all kinds of bustling going on. You'd keep walking your way through that, and suddenly it would narrow again and go around the sharp corner, and you'd be standing in front of this giant white bull with these big horns taking up side to side. There was no way around him. You'd have to turn around, go back, and take another turn to find your way around that. And we stumbled upon this snake charmer that was sitting there on this wooden chest with a snake in a basket. And he was, when he saw us, clearly tourists because we were white, he pulls out his flute and starts going for the snake. But the snake, obviously, I was told later, was on opium. That they give the snakes some opium so they're not quite as accurate or vicious. But he had a drunk friend with him who was sitting next to the snake basket. And when the snake started to come up out, the drunk guy smacked it on the head. And it went back into its basket, and we kept walking. But Varanasi was just like that, just ethereal. Like you had no idea what you would see. You just had no idea what was going to be presented to you. It was so magical, so marvelously mystical. And of course, those were my.
What about the Karnika Ghat, where they burn the dead? Wow.
Okay, you brought it up. I'm going to have to tell that story. I don't know if you meant to do that. This is one of those stories. You better get ready. Your stomach's going to be a little queasy. Because Philip and I were walking, through the city, just like what I was just sharing with you, and we smelled barbecue. Now you guys know where it's going, and so we were like, so we had no idea. We really did think we were looking for a barbecue restaurant, someplace. And so we were looking and following the smell. And when we finally came out and the vista opened up and we were standing right there on that burning ghat overlooking the Ganges, where they had all these bodies, that were dead bodies wrapped in their white burial clothes, and they were burning them. And this, what we thought was barbecue, was burning humans. And that was very difficult to process. that was very difficult to process. It was like, oh my God. But yeah, that was that experience of that ghat. I had a second experience of that ghat. Was in 2000. Yeah.
One, just to mention, I don't know, I wasn't so spiritually inclined and with Benares at that time. So go ahead and explain what the spiritual experience of that. Yeah, I was young and I wasn't impressed at all.
Yeah, well, the second time that I went to Varanasi was in 2012. I went alone. That was the trip that I took my sannyas. So at that point, I was wearing Gerawa robes. Which it's a very different experience to walk around Varanasi in Gerawa. Amazing difference. And I went to the burning ghats there, and I was there was a young teenage kid who had come up to me, was trying to convince me that he was going to be my guide. If I gave him some money, he'd be my guide. And I said, no, I don't need a guide. I said, I'm going to the burning ghat. And he looked at me and says, why would you go there? I said, I want to meditate. And he looked at me and says, no, they won't let you go. And I, I remember the first time in my life I ever said this to somebody. I said, I'm a sannyasi. They will let me go. And so I excused myself. I went over and I sat in the burning ghats and watched the bodies burning. I watched the people wailing. Uh, and I really just thought it really was a great way to frame life, to frame life and to understand what's important, to sit there and just watch body after body after body be placed on fires, and the same drama going on with each iteration of a family in distress, a partner left behind. You know, just it's very, very difficult at first, but after a while you see it has its own rhythm that helps you understand that this is just the rhythm of life. There's nothing more here but the rhythm of life. This is the way everything comes, everything appears, everything goes, disappears. That this is the play. And it felt marvelous to me to sit there in Garawa and to contemplate and to think about all the times in the scriptures that I had read about these great saints going to these burning ghats, covering their bodies in the dust of the ashes of the dead, uh, as their act of renunciation. This, I am only this for a short while. I want to be what I always am, not what I am for a short while. And so this going inside, see the body as it is. This is what you are only for a very short while. Very short. There's something so much more profound to you than the body, so much more profound than a mind. And so in Varanasi, is a city that's just been there for thousands of years. And the longest.
Maharaj,
Yeah.
I only felt, when I went a second time after reading Diane Ike's book on City of Lights, Benares.
Uh-huh.
And I saw the city in a different light. Like you said, it's been there for thousands of years.
Tens of thousands.
City upon city has been built over it.
Yeah. No, it is an amazing place to see. There's definitely an atmosphere there, an otherworldly atmosphere, that even I could feel it back in 1999, fresh out of the world, just hadn't even joined the monastery at that point, but even I could sense this profundity in the air there. It's the world's oldest continuously lived in city, and it's got all of the signs of a city that has been there for tens of thousands of years. Everything feels somehow more present than our Home Depot homes.
Hey, Swami,
yeah.
Did you ever meet Bill Wiebold? He was a devotee that lived in Alima.
I did, yes.
Yeah, he went to India and he had a lot of health problems, so he had a suitcase full of pills and vitamins and everything. But he said in his trip to India, he said every time he crossed the city limits of Varanasi, he felt his mind just immediately became the most deeply meditative that he'd ever experienced in his life.
Mm-hmm.
He had been in the monastery in San Francisco long back, and then was living at our retreat as a kind of a vanaprastha or someone who helped out the retreat and lived there. But he just said it was amazing. He said, I went there several times on my trip, and every time I entered that city, my mind became so incredibly calm. I've never experienced anything like it anywhere else. So different people have different experiences in these places, but that I always remembered that him telling me that.
Yeah, well, I believe that very much. There definitely is an atmosphere there, and Thakur also tells amazing events in Varanasi, seeing the Divine Mother going and loosing the knots of delusion from the souls that died there. There's that idea that if you die in Varanasi, you're liberated, you're freed. And Shiva, he has that vision of Shiva also going around the burning ghats.
Yeah, his vision was crazy because he was on the river in a boat, just kind of touring. All of a sudden he stands up and he's on the very front edge of the boat, and they had to kind of hold him from falling into the water. And that's what he saw. He saw Shiva on one side, imparting the mantra, giving Brahmagnana to every dying person, and the Divine Mother on the other side, I don't know I forget who was imparting what, but they were on either side of each dead body.
Yeah, well, he was giving them the mantra of Brahmagyana, and she was untying the knots.
Untying the knots, that's right, yeah.
What city are we talking about?
Varanasi? Benares.
Is that Bombay?
No, it's Benares.
It's Benares, thank you.
Yeah, our
The British butchered the pronunciation of Varanasi and made it Benares. It's also known as Kashi. In the old Upanishads, you see it as Kashi.
That's all right though, because India got their revenge by calling Sunnyvale Sunnyvali. So yeah, no, but this time in Varanasi, it is a very holy city. It's my favorite city in India, actually, just because it's one of those places where you don't have a category in your mind to put it. You have to create a new category for Varanasi when you go and see it. It's like you've never seen anything like it, never experienced anything like it. And if you go, there's a wonderful lodge, a hotel, down in the heart of Varanasi called the Yogi Lodge. And it was run by an Indian couple who had traveled a lot around the world. And so it was put together like a backpacker lodge that you would find in Europe. So they had a big, large area with a cafe and where you could order nachos, and that's all I needed. So that's all I know that they ordered. They had nachos, and it was a great place because you can meet all manner of people. But there was no way you can't get there by car or by bus. The Yogi Lodge is in the middle of these winding, narrow alleyways. I don't know how we would have found it, except that Philip knew where it was. But it was just, you just wander and turn a corner, and there it was, just magically. But yeah, so go to Varanasi sometime. It'll do your spirit good. All right, where were we? They stayed in Varanasi for 3 days and then went to Vrindavan, where they stayed until the middle of April 1895. It was arranged for them to stay at Kalababu's Kunja, Balaram Basu's estate, where Holy Mother had stayed during her last visit. They visited all the important temples in Vrindavan. On April 1895, the party left for Prayag, the confluence of the Ganges and the Jamuna, where they bathed. On their way back, they stopped at Gaya. As was the custom, Shyama Sundari's eldest son, Prasana, performed a ritual and offered Pinda at the feet of Vishnu for their departed father, Ramchandra. Holy Mother was very pleased. On the fourth day, they visited Bodh Gaya and then returned to Calcutta. Bodh Gaya, that's where Buddha was. I also got to go to Bodh Gaya. I saw a couple of those big Buddhist stupas there, and these busloads of Japanese Buddhist practitioners just walking in awe. It was so amazing to see. That they also were visiting the spiritual source of their inspiration. It was just delightful to see people from all around the world coming there for spiritual reasons, and just.
Well, in the Sarnath, that was what I was impressed with.
Yeah. What did you like?
The whole place for me was, where your mind went calm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sign of a holy place. There's calmness in the air. I remember in the old temple in San Francisco, in the main shrine there in the old temple down the hill from the new temple, there, my mother, when I first moved into the monastery back in '99, my mother came to visit. My mother and father came to visit, and I remember taking them in through the side door into the temple in the old temple there, and it was significant to me because my mother doesn't have any of these interests or any of these feelings or anything about the spiritual life. But when she walked into that auditorium there, we were standing there, and I was kind of telling them about this, that, and the other, and then we just sort of standing there for a minute quietly, and my mother turned to me and said something so out of character for her. She said, "My God, there's a stillness in this room." So even she, without any prompting or any background in Vedanta or any real interest in spiritual life, she also was able to feel that in that shrine there. So they visited Bodh Gaya and then returned to Calcutta. Holy Mother sent her mother and brothers to Jairambati while she stayed with M's family at 51 Bhavani Datta Lane in Kolutula. How do I say that? Kolutula for a month? Kolutola for a month. On the 13th of May, 1895, Holy Mother left for Jairambati. She had with her a small brass image of baby Krishna, or Bala Gopala, and she had bought in Vrindavan. She kept the image on the shelf in her room. One day, while she was lying on her bed, that image of little Gopala crawled to her and said, "You brought me here, but you don't care for me. You don't feed me. You don't worship me. If you don't worship me, no one else will worship me." Immediately, Holy Mother took the image in her hand and kissed it affectionately, touching its cheek with her fingertips, and then touched them to her own lips. She offered flowers to the image and placed it next to the Master's picture, where she worshipped it daily. I'm just going to leave that with you. This is the world of an awakened soul. This is the world of a seer, where the divine, that divine reality, which is just behind the veil of the material one, is seeable to them, manifested to them. They can see things as they are. Holy Mother's travels in 1895 to 1897. Although from 1895 to 1896, Holy Mother lived mostly in Jairambati, she sometimes visited Karmarpur. After attending Jagadatri Puja, Holy Mother and Golap Ma went to Karmarpur. On the 26th of November, 1895, she wrote to M, "I received 10 rupees which you sent. I am now living in Karmarpur. Golap had a fever, but has now recuperated." In April 1896, Holy Mother returned to Calcutta and stayed for 1 month at Sharat Sarkar's house at 59/2 Ramkanta Basu Street. They give you these addresses so you can go visit them. Many of them are still there. And if you go stay at Bellarmont, they'll no doubt will set you up with a car and several other visiting devotees to be taken around to see all of these different sites. It's really overwhelming. The real way to do it is to see one and spend the day there trying to comprehend what you're seeing, because I found that to be the biggest obstacle. It wasn't anything really in particular. It's just that, to go to Karmarpur or to Dakshineshwar, and just wander around the temple there to try and get yourself to understand that Thakur walked and breathed and lived and ate here, taught here, to try and wrap your mind around, depending on your faith, the idea that Thakur is God, that an incarnation walked on these tiles, sat on these steps, and you see the deities that he worshipped and the shrines that he sat in and the places that he had samadhi. And it's really, you just can't, the mind just can't hold those things. You know, it's too much charge in them. The mind would just short if it was able to really truly understand what's being seen. And I found that so frustrating. You know, it was like trying to breathe through a stir stick. You knew there was so much there, but you couldn't open wide enough to experience it, to appreciate it, to enjoy it. In April 1896, Mother returned to Calcutta and stayed for 1 month at Sharat Sarkar's house. She could not stay at Balaram's home because his son Ramakrishna was soon to be married, and the house was full of their relatives and guests. So that was Balaram's son Ramakrishna, not Ramakrishna. Keeping you on your toes there. In 1896, Vivekananda wrote a letter to his brother disciples at Alambazar Math, encouraging them to serve human beings as God. Swami Trigunatitananda read that letter to Holy Mother, and she said, Narayan is an instrument in the hands of the Master. Narayan will make his disciples and devotees fulfill his mission to do good to humanity. For that reason, the Master is making Narayan write these inspiring words. I love how she states the mission right there. This is our mission as disciples of Vivekananda. You know, make his disciples and devotees fulfill his mission to do good to humanity. That's our mission. You know, an aspect of our mission to do good to humanity. It's not for our realization, though it's part of that. All the monks of the order make that that's our vows. You know, for the good of the world and for our own renunciation, for our own enlightenment, our own seeing. So that's why we live. We live for the good of the world and for our own enlightenment. Anything else? Frivolous. Let it go down the river as it was before you picked it up. Narayan will make his disciples and devotees fulfill his mission to do good to humanity. For that reason, the Master is making Narayan write these inspiring words. After Holy Mother had been at Sharat Sarkar's house for a month, a house was rented for her at Sharkar Bari Lane in Bug Bazaar near the Ganges. The first floor of the house was a turmeric warehouse, according to M, a jute warehouse, and the second and third floors were the living quarters. Holy Mother lived with Golap Ma. I think there's a typo. We've got two Golap Ma's in a row. Holy Mother lived with Gopal Ma and Golap Ma. There it is. So Gopal Ma and Golap Ma and other women devotees on the third floor. From there, she could see the Ganges very clearly. Swamis Brahmananda and Yogananda and a couple of brahmacharis lived on the second floor so they could look after Holy Mother. Holy Mother stayed in this house for 5 or 6 months. After Kali Puja, she left for Jairambati in November of 1896. Holy Mother returned to Calcutta in 1897, probably in the 4th week of April, and stayed in a rented house at 10/2 Bolshpara Lane, Bug Bazaar. Swamiji went to see her there on the 29th of April. There was some discussion of Holy Mother's visiting Kedarnath and Badrinath, but the plan did not work out. Those were up in the Himalayas. There's 3 of those places: Kedarnath, Badrinath, and Gangotri, the 3 pilgrimages. All right. Well, it's the end of the chapter, a good place to stop.